So I've just spent the last hour, 2 hours, going through all the charcoal. That's the remnants of what I've been going through. So I said yesterday I was determined that I've got some more cooking now at the same time, and a few bits there, candidates, as I say in programming terms. So I've got a few pieces that are definites. So having just worked on stumps recently, these kind of things. Although I do like drawing little bits of charcoal like that. It's a strange kind of even more, hand to paper thing, rather than it being the longer pieces, which I've got some longer pieces lined up now as well. So and a few pieces in the bamboo clutches. So this paper is the paper I used to use way back when, and when I first started it's a recycled cartridge, and I stopped using it because the company that supplied it could never supply it safely. They'd ship it, but they'd just put it in an envelope and it'd come all damaged, and it was already damaged because of the nature. It's recycled, so you'd always get flaws in it. So I used to lose 50% of what they sent me. I complained about it, but nothing ever. They didn't come back to me or respond in any way. So I stopped using it. So that was the state of play. I did a lesson last night, and I thought I've got 1 or 2 plans lined up for more painterly type executions, subject matter. This is what I'm going to draw now, and I'm going to do it because this is about light. And somebody said to me yesterday, everything that I do is light. You can't see the big lady behind that. It's all about light. They're still not finished that thing. I keep threatening to finish it, but I haven't. So that's what this is about. So I'm going to do it in stages. So I'm going to do, because of the. Now I'm putting this reference in the members area if you want the reference. So I'm going to do it in stages because of, I think it warrants that kind of. Last night's lesson, sort of 30 minutes of sketching, scribbling, whatever you want to call it. I think what I'm going to try and do with this one is for it to be more. I don't know whether this is a better example, but more of a. I don't know. It's more of a painting than an illustration. It's got more. There's context to it. What you're looking at. What's going off. What's behind it. And all the fun that you have with this stuff. With the background, even though it's not like that. It just evolves. So I've got this thing of doing something more significant. As I say, this is going to be probably at least 2 parts. It might be 3. So this will be the first part of it. I'll just get the thing planned out where it's going to sort of sit on the page first, and then so I don't. One of the things I have to do is I have to sit well back from when I'm drawing to be able to see where everything's going on. I think one of the, when I do the courses, one of the real kind of significant things is this working upright and sitting well back from the what you're working on, just only because of the proportional thing. I mean, people have methods to do this, but for me, with it being all about observation, I've got to see with accuracy, and the best thing for me is to work upright and well away from the paper. It's just a seeing everything all at once kind of thing. That's and of course at this stage, because it's not there's no, it's not critical. The exactness of things not critical. I can be fairly loose in the way that I identify things. I don't know whether or not charcoal is the reason this happens. It might be. As you can see, it's. I'm not concerned too much with marks being in the wrong place or. Extra marks, floating around. It doesn't. It's, and as I say, it may well be charcoal that's the root of that. So, because it can be fixed. I think also with this kind of subject, there is a, there is a kind of continuity of tone. It's sort of, it's not just edges, ends, of the end of that finishes there. There is a continuity of tone, this relationship between things. It's almost like there's a fuzziness about it, and part of that, when I'm applying the charcoal to it, is it sort of feeds into that, because I'll make light marks outside the parameters of what you'd call the face. I don't think I've always done it. I think it's kind of evolved as I've done this more and more. Initially, I did. If you look at the early ones and you hear me talking about it, I did do. Had this thing of lines where the face had to fit on the page, or sit on the page rather, and it would. There were lines outside, and you could see the lines outside, the definition of the face. But now I think it's more than that. It's more than just having these wandering lines. I'm just trying to get the distances sorted out. I tell you what I'm doing now is I'm looking at that eye in relation to that, but what I'm also doing is I'm looking at this eye here and this in relation to the edge of the paper. It's just another way of me visually working out whether things are in the right place. I think also because I've already said it's going to be a two-part. I've got no need for it to be a rapid production thing. I'm actually working with the idea that it can evolve. I can take my time over it. Sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. Sometimes too much time is a problem for me. So if I take too long on something, it's a problem. I'm still not that concerned about the exactness of things just yet. I just want to get the size of things right, really. I think that's the purpose of doing this. I just want to get things in the right place, I suppose. say, because of this, there's going to be, this tone on this part of it here. I'm not looking to put an edge on anything. I'm more interested in it's kind of an approximation of things. I tell you what's interesting about this phase for me is that it's because it's completely feeling your way around, sort of thing. As you can see, I'm looking for that moment when I think, yeah, that's it. That's it. And it just comes. I can't. It's a culmination of things as I figure out where everything is. But at that one moment when it suddenly falls into place, you think, yeah, that's it. And then I'll move away from this and start looking. You can see it's starting to do it a little bit, but one of the things that's happening, and you see this a lot in charcoal portraits, is there's a tonal quality to it. It's like a the not white flesh type of feeling about it, and it because of the the way I'm doing it, it's a little bit like when people draw it and then rub it out. It's a little bit like that. There's a familiarity of tones. This is the thing that I always see when they do it. I think that's just leveling the tones, leveling the elements, the backgrounds, so there's always kind of a familiarity between things. I think that's a big thing as well for me. I think the familiarity of tones thing, which is not really. It's a bit like when you get a bunch of colours and you sort of, they're all in the same. They feel the same, Jackson's just got a load of pigments from, it's called the Italian palette, and you can tell it's like a because he's going to make his own oil paints. So, but you can tell they're all familiar, these colours. They're just, most people would just, sort of interior designers would just, all these colours go with each other, and they probably produce some, colour wheel example for a reason why it does. But I always think that, how you feel about things is far more important about any kind of scientific reason for it. You know what I mean? It's like, if you think, because that's the problem with that, or only use these colours because these are the only ones that go together. What happens with that? Well, there's no personal choice or anything, is there? And that, for me, is a big thing. It's going to be. It's like composition. I think composition is a personal choice. It's instinct and intuition based on all kinds of, personal preferences. But and aesthetic. Vocabulary, the thing about you see enough culture and things in your life, and it forms the way you, or if you see certain types of culture in your life, it forms the way you look at the world. So I think composition is one of those things, as is colour. But I'm just saying about the relationship thing of tones. I'm getting close to wanting to do things a little bit more accurate. I'm not there quite yet, but I'm wanting to do that. I want to let some of the inaccuracy be part of it because of because of those being sort of the early marks, the marks that have my initial response in them. That's where the value is for me. There are people that draw like this, where it's you're putting down tone and then taking away the charcoal. Somebody talked about it the other day about it being a subtractive. I think that's what they called it. And I was thinking when I was drawing I don't know if you saw the guy yesterday. It was quite a dark thing, and I spent a bit of time on it with the density, the tones, and everything. And there were points in it when it was the paper was playing up, or there's something not right. The marks, the charcoal wasn't quite right, or whatever. And I was thinking about this thing of the perfect thing, the perfection of the marks and the tones that you apply and the way that you apply them and all that sort of thing, especially the way you apply them thing. And then it was like none of this matters, none of this stuff that's I'm getting hung up on. At one bit I did get hung up on it big time. It was like it had to be the marks had to be perfect. But when or the way charcoal was being applied, or went on the paper, it had to be perfect. But then it was when I didn't, that kind of thing. When I didn't fuss over those things and allowed the inconsistency of the charcoal, or the breaking up of the charcoal and all that sort of thing, when I allowed those to be part of the drawing, it just seemed to be much more full of life. It's not, it's not making any excuses and trying to be some perfect representation. It's just is what it is, like it or not, and it's still making that, it still feels right. It's still making that point. It's still capturing the essence of that person, regardless of whether or not the charcoal has been applied with precision or perfection, and it's been blended within an inch of its life. It didn't seem to matter anymore. I think part of that is also, a reality thing. I just not, whatever I do, I'm not going to fix it. That's not going to certainly work. That was some charcoal, like that one. It's just gone on there. When you see it there, it's kind of like wax. Weird, that. So I'm going to struggle with that one as well. So I thought I had quite a few pieces lined up for it, but looks like I'm struggling. Try this one. Right. Yeah. So that was. That was the first thing. Really, was to get used to the idea that part of the beauty in there and the reason why charcoal works is because of these things that it does that you feel as though you're out of control with. So that's not working either. Let me see if I can find a little piece in here that's that might work. Yeah, probably work better. And I think it's accepting those things, accepting that out of control, or the lack of control. I think, because one of the things is, you can see, it sort of starts with a kind of fairly loose approach to it, to say the least, and I'm going to inevitably have things in there that wouldn't necessarily be ideal if you were trying to make it, well, it wouldn't be ideal at all if you were trying to make it a perfect replica, but they give it something. This is back to this evenness of the tonal thing. Back to that. I think that's with this, as you can see, as it's evolving now, and chances are, from what I'm as I see this working its way out, chances are it's going to have that much more tonal quality about it, sort of a blended tonal quality about it of some kind. It's going to have that a granular thing. That'll be part of the charcoal as much as anything else that's causing that, but I said about there comes a moment when it feels like it's working, then it's now. Because it does, doesn't it? It just feels like it's working. I can never tell when, and that's what I always am impressed by when people have stages, steps. I've just seen one that said steps to. I don't know. I think it was drawing a facial element for eyes or ears. I can't remember, but I'm always impressed with that because I can't say there are steps. All right, now I'm going to do this. I have no idea everything because I'm drawing everything all at once, and that's for me that's the only way to get things in the right place. To be looking at things all the time, to looking at the whole of the face all the time, making cross-face measurements, comparisons. I think that's the reason I can't do the steps thing. There are people that do steps, there are people that do it really well, but it's not me. It's not me. I've done step by step to better portraits in the workshop, or 4 steps to make better portraits, but that's not the same thing. It was basically a 4-week. It was to say that there are 4 things. The first of all is reset your perceptions. Somebody asked me yesterday about 3 artists' influence, and I was happy to say that I have no influences that I can recall. Now that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But it is. It's a real, for me, it's a really important thing that I don't have anybody's work imposing any expectations on me. Influencing me maybe, but I'm influenced by everybody's work. So, good or bad. So, but that's different. That's different to having 3 favourite artists or 3 artists that you admire or who have influenced what you do. It's a different thing. So I don't have that. I don't have that at all. Even if I talk about Sargent and Zorn and Soroya and all the rest of it, they're just artists that whose work I admire. They're not people that I aspire to be like. They're just, as I said, artists I admire, and how that influences me is probably completely subliminal, not at all obvious or conscious influence, which is good. That's how it should be. You don't really want it to be, because you're always going to be using them as a yardstick of your progress, and that's not what you want to do. But yeah, as I said, there is a point at which I think, yeah, that's it, that's working, and I think it's now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, because it's not too late, if you know what I mean, to actually look at the sizes of things and this what I'm looking at the moment is from her eye there to the chin. It's right because I'm looking at it from the point of view. So I make that measurement, and then I make that measurement, and if that measurement's right, then that measurement is going to be right. So I make that measurement. So there's one there, and there's one there. So I make measurements, all of those, across all of the face, and then the other one is this one, right? Not just the alignment. So the ear is aligning horizontally, roughly where the cheek or whatever that bit is there aligns. So that's where that comes. And the other one is this, from the corner of her eye to first of all this hair that's coming down there, and then back into her ear. So there is probably a little bit of misalignment there, but it's to do with the eye. You can see as I took that eye off there, or took the edge of the eye off there, it's to do with that. So now, if I can now measure that distance from there to there, and then there's the ear, which which is sort of tucking into there. So it's just about there. So that goes into there. That goes into there. The ear bits are in there, right? And then across the top there, maybe it's a little bit bigger at the top there. But that you can see now. So now I can just align that. So it's above her ear. Her ear is above her eyebrow, just above her eyebrow. So if the eyebrow is about there, the ear is there, right? And it doesn't matter, it's not quite white at the moment, or light enough there, because it's going to be, you know, relative to its surroundings. So if I can then darken it around it, it will look lighter in the middle. And then the shape of it wants to be fixed a little bit, so the shape of it is more bulging out there and back in again. Okay, so overall that's the shape of it. So I'll roughly anyway. So I'll fix that and sort out the middle of the ear as well. The other thing about the, as you can see, what's happening, all the, you know, the extra marks that are appearing as I'm figuring stuff out and find out where everything's going to be, and you know, all this kind of the marks in there and whatever. People worry about those, and you know, how do you get them off when they miss it? And by the time you finish, there's no extra marks, or there's no other marks. It's because they get absorbed with charcoal. You every mark you make feeds the tones. It's not something you need to worry about. It's not like graphite, you know. There's no need to worry about the wandering lines. They can become just part of the tonal background. And with this being more of a, because I want it to be more, even though I'm talking about light, I want it to be more of a painting, feel like a painting than a drawing. Because sometimes there can be a little bit illustrative. I think that's probably my hang-ups about illustration. But they can sometimes just be illustrative, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not really a fan of people who make paintings that are illustrative. It's not for me, it's not a desirable thing. Sometimes you can make things that aren't illustrative, that don't illustrate the buttons on a shirt and the perfect hair and all that kind of thing, and it can still be a great portrait. So, and I was looking at some this morning that were very Modigliani in their vibe, and I'm thinking how great they were, and they were not. And some were saying about the influence and things. So I can be influenced by any artist. That's the beauty. By not having favourite artists, even though as I say, I do talk about Sargent, but only because it's relevant to making portraits. But not having favourite artists or anybody that I would consider an influence, an inspiration, because that's the thing that I hear that, like, it makes me cringe when people say, "Oh, I'm inspired by such and such." You know, certain artists, and I think, oh, no, it's a wrong thing to be. You know, you can be inspired by life and people and things around you, but you can't really be inspired by artists, or shouldn't really be inspired by other artists, because you can. I mean, I don't have to explain the damage that will do, because all of a sudden it's like you're thinking you're going to paint like them, and you know, compare yourself to them, and you know, slippery slope, I'm afraid. But yeah, this is now starting to shape up, and what I particularly like, what I wanted to do, I'd sort of make it a bit better. What I wanted to do is capture this, like I said, with the reference. I wanted to capture this continuity thing. I think one of the things that why I'm attracted to certain images, and I don't draw from black and white images unless they are really black and white images. I don't really think that computers can make, and I was going to put, in fact I might put one on the members area that shows what happens when you desaturate a colour image, because it's quite interesting how much it takes out. And but I like black and white images, film, basically, because of the continuous nature of the tones. So equally, when I'm looking at this, I think the what I was looking at this morning, and I think it was a Florence thing, it was an academy of some kind anyway. And I was looking at the lens they go to create this idea of continual tone, whereas illustrators tend to, and you'll see I do it as well sometimes, there is no, like, continuity of tone is not really, this is illustration, this is what this is. The continuity of tone, which you see in the more academic, which is, as I said, the thing that I think is I'm going to say more attractive, not necessarily more attractive, but it's more real for me, that continuity of tone. That definitely looks like an illustration. It could be something that's in a publication of some kind. And what I want to do, really, if I'm honest, is I want to get best of both worlds. I want to create this more academic tonal feel, but at the same time I want to keep the disrespect for the accuracy or the perfection of the line. In academic ways, they would want to remove all evidence of it being a drawing, and it's purely continuous tone. You can see how even things are, and they spend weeks doing that. But I want that effect, but I don't want that effect, if you know what I mean. It's something different. It has to have the same vibe, but not executed in the same way. That's what it is. Anyway, what we're doing, 39 minutes. As I said, I'm going to do this in stages. So now that it's starting to shape up, and I'm deliberately deconstructing, I suppose, the lines, the line structure. I'm looking at, say, this bit here, for instance, and I'm just, how much can I take away from that before, for it to, and it still remains. There's an issue there with a little bit of an issue there with the distance of things. I just want to just check on that. So I've got this here, it may well be that I've got to, it's that distance there I'm looking at, so I may well have to bring that in a little bit, in there like that. And the other thing about it as well is this edge thing. When things meet, when tones meet, we call them edges, and people will put an edge on things and draw edges, and they have edge control and all this sort of thing. The less defined it is for me, the better. So it's almost like, if I've drawn if I've drawn a chin on there, and the same with that side of a cheek, I like the fact that there is no definite line to it. There is an indication of what's there. I don't know if we can see it on some of the paintings. I don't know if we can see it on this one. There is no example of that. I quite like the way that it's just, there isn't a definite line there. I could have tried to put a definite line on it. Same with the eye. See that eye? When it focuses. So that kind of thing, where there is no, and equally there, I suppose, as well, there is no definite line. So, but as I said, I kind of like that. And with this being a continuous tonal thing, or that's what I'm the vibe I'm getting from it. it's just like a gentle. People would go back and smudge those lines. And I've got a friend who does that, and he draws and then rubs it to death with either his finger or a piece of tissue or something to create that fuzzy edge effect. So anyway, getting back to the purpose of this, talking about the light side of things, you can see how I find the shapes, and then I'm going to apply tone to those shapes to try and define the shapes better. But at the same time, the tone becomes the tone that defines the shape, if that makes sense. So defining the shape, or gives the tone becomes is what gives the shape its form. So I'm continually doing that. I'm not really at the stage where tones matter that much. I'm still in the stage where it matters that I get things in the right place, or it feels like things in the right place. But as you can see, it builds. The tonal aspects of it build. So that really, I suppose, is the first stage of it. And as I'm tweaking things and pushing them around and whatever, this is one of the reasons why I would always use charcoal for this, because it's sort of forgiving. It's with this way of working. I would imagine if you're more precise and construction side of things, it wouldn't be a problem. The charcoal, you would just take advantage of the charcoal's tonal capabilities. But I'm taking advantage of the tonal capabilities right from the get-go. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that for the first part. I'm going to just appraise everything in terms of where things are and whether or not there needs to be a bit of tweaking and things. And then I'll come back on for the next one. I don't want each one of them to be massive watch me for 2 hours kind of thing. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, and then I'll be back on with whether the next one is the finishing one. It might be, but I suspect it'll be 3. So what I'm going to do is, this is the getting things in the right place stage, the early stages. Then I'm going to go into more of this everywhere else, and then the final one will be the background, because the background on this, as you can see, the background on this is what makes this feel. You can see this sort of, the shadow that isn't there, and there's it's sort of in a dingy, badly illuminated room, but that gives it that emphasises the light on various parts of it. So that'll be the final stage. So I say we'll call this the first part.